parents. We just wanted to come and talk to you just for a few minutes today, just to share a few of our thoughts after we have had a couple weeks online, having our youth group time, and just what we've learned from that, some different things that have stuck out over the last few weeks. I don't know if you want to call this a podcast. I will make the statement that probably in 2007, okay, we made our first podcast, Sunnybrook Youth Podcast. Ty Prather made that for us, and we had at least like 2 episodes. So it did exist back then.
Prather.
Ty Prather, shout.
I didn't even
Ty
know that.
Prather. Oh, yeah. And it was myself and Ryan Bennett in my car giving youth announcements with microphones. So it's off the internet now. So, they started off big in the beginning, podcast faded out. Now everyone supposedly has a podcast. I don't even know if this is going to be called a podcast or if it'll just be one time and no one listens to it. But we wanted to share with you what we've learned for a few weeks after we've had our youth group. I remember sitting down a couple weeks ago at my table after all of this COVID stuff has just been upon us and we're not able to meet together. And I can remember setting out my laptop, going to get my son's microphone that he has, that, his amateur rapper in 8th grade. And so he has his microphone. I put the microphone, plug it into my computer. I bring out my other son's video gaming screen, put on my headphones. And I remember thinking, and my Bible, got my Bible. I remember thinking, this is really weird. And I have no idea how long this is going to last. Hopefully not long. And what we experienced, I think, was a pretty incredible moment over the next hour with our students. And I shared, I know with Morgan afterwards, sent a text to a lot of our leaders, and I just said, this was a top 5 youth ministry moment for me. And I still believe that after a long time. Like, I don't know if, I just think it was weird and really different and convicting and fun and cool all at the same time, and a little bit scary. So anyway, we just want to share with you guys for a few minutes what we're learning about your kids, about some of our leaders, what we've been talking about with students. So we'll just kick it off. We'll just go to Justin first. Like, what are some things that you're learning after having our meeting time on Zoom? What have you learned?
Number one, some students love it. Some students think it's super awkward. I was signed on last week, got there probably 10, 15 minutes early to the video session for the high schoolers. And you could tell sometimes somebody would pop on and realize, oh, no, my friends aren't here yet. And they would leave.
Right.
So they didn't want to be there unless their friends were there. And so they waited a few minutes to show up when it was socially acceptable for them, 5 minutes after the actual start time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, the 9th graders that show up, they're trying to sign on an hour beforehand. I'm
Sure.
getting emails. Hey, you have people waiting for you that just want to talk and goof off and see people and interact. And so kind of everywhere in between. I think probably like on a more serious side thing that I'm learning is that one of the best things that I can do right now is make a phone call. It's one of the things we're doing as a church, trying to make a phone call to people we know who might be in need, but also just everybody, trying to start doing that with our students, because it's tough. I think when you're in front of, we've had, just like you guys, over 70 people on these Zoom calls. Mm-hmm. It's tough to get deep with 70 people on a screen. And so we've been trying to push people towards small group time, which has been, anywhere from chaotic to interesting to good for some, but want to try to get more one-on-one, because as Drew and I, we've talked, and Morgan, we've talked, students, especially guy students in high school, are somewhere between, oh, awesome, I just get kind of a longer break, to, I'm just kind of hanging out. I didn't know things were different very much, to just don't know how to process and don't know what to do necessarily. Right. And so trying to get them to open up and process this well and use their time wisely has been just interesting to navigate, and something I'm praying through a lot and seeking wisdom in a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I think what you're saying right at the beginning, really, I was tracking with that, just your you have freshmen that are there early, right? So I logged in an hour early last night, and someone's already like looking at me, in the
The
screen.
sixth
I think,
grader, right?
yeah, totally, just ready to go. And
Yep.
I think one of the things I'm learning is that real life and the kind of virtual thing, there are a lot of similarities. There are a lot of differences, but there are a lot of similarities that exist, that about teenagers that maybe not change. So Morgan, how about you? What are you learning?
I agree with what you guys are saying. Like, you have elementary kids who all talk and all want to be seen all the time. Then you
Right.
have junior high kids who all want to be seen, and half of them want to talk and half of them think, I'm a little bit more like aware of my like social environment and how I can be perceived. Then you have high school students who are still showing up to the Zoom meeting wanting to be seen, definitely have thought through like where they're going to be, if they're going to be in a hammock or if they're going to be in their bedroom or if they're going to be, so the background, like they're still thinking through that, but
Yes.
they're not going to say anything because they don't want to draw attention to themselves.
Right.
And so it's all things that you see, you just kind of see it under a microscope,
Right.
in these moments. But one of the things I've been personally kind of really honestly struggling with is just preparedness. And being in control, you want to be someone that is responsible and that is a hard worker and that is prepared. And what that looks like normally for someone in my position is to study a scripture, to prepare a lesson, to have lunch with students to see how they're doing, to set up the gym for Wednesday night, to go in, to shake hands, to check on people, kind of be aware of who's there, who looks like they're not having a good day, those kinds of things. Go up and speak, send small groups off, give them small group materials, come up with an activity or a game. I mean, like, this is our job, a big part of our job. And so I can feel good about being prepared. I'm used to preparing for those things.
Mm-hmm.
What I am not is very technologically savvy. What I am not is good at troubleshooting internet problems. And so I get nervous because it seems like our content is not what I'm able to really focus on preparing right now. Because the students they just want to be seen and heard. We're all just like wanting to kind of connect. And so to get up and perform doesn't really seem appropriate. And so it's like, okay, well, if I'm not preparing content, then I'm kind of troubleshooting and I'm checking on people in the meantime. But then when it's time to go, it's like, I hope my internet works. It's like the first week, Drew and I couldn't, 15 minutes beforehand, we can't figure out how to get this Zoom account to work. And people are starting, that freaks me out. And, yesterday I was telling Drew this, one of our 7th grade boys got kicked off of the Zoom account with like 12 minutes to go. And he's texting me on the side, but the Zoom thing's going in front of me. And so I'm trying to pay attention and people are chatting in the sidebar and my internet didn't work. So we went to my parents' house and went upstairs without seeing my parents because we can't get close to them. And it's just like chaos, a little bit. And it's not bad, but I think it can make it, for me, it raises the level of feeling anxious or stressed out, easily snippy with people or angry, just because it's different and it's something that is so out of my control and it's not polished. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing sometimes to have something that's not polished, that like we can kind of sit with the high school students and go, anybody have any prayer requests? And the chat box stays empty. And Justin and I are like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. We just keep doing something here that's awkward, or yeah. I think one of our 6th grade guys, small group leaders, tried to have a little chat with his group in Zoom. And he said, I feel like I just left an awkward middle school dance. Like after that, it was like, they wanted to be there, but they didn't know what they wanted to say. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of feels like that sometimes. And
yeah,
it's in learning.
Yeah. With our youngest son, he's in 6th grade, and we've been talking to him about this and he's really experiencing it for the first time. And he comes home the other day and, he's like, yeah, I just he didn't leave. We were passing each other in the house because we don't leave. Yeah. But he's like, I have 2 Zoom meetings today, so this is now a part of his language, 2 Zoom meetings, one with his class and one with his youth group. So we're now even getting a new language that comes with this. But if our audience would be, say, quite a few parents here. But the thing that sticks out to me, Justin, like you were talking about, making some of these different calls to people in our church just to see how people are doing. Obviously, being connected right now is very, very important while we're apart. Got some great feedback from parents. It's just like, man, I'm so glad that we had that. I'm so glad they got to see familiar faces and to even behind the screen to be with them. Just raises that whole, the whole idea of connection and community and what we have together in Christ and how important that can be for not only us as adults, but also for our own children. Let's kind of move to this idea, the idea of identity for a minute. I know the first couple weeks we've done some different, I guess they would be games, and we really didn't set out with the goal of, hey, we want to have these games so that it helps people understand more about who they are. They just sort of ended up being that way. So the first week, I know, Morgan, you did a game where they were supposed to go and get an object, right? And explain the game and how this all works.
So Justin sent, it's a little different with junior high and high school. We're trying to do some more large group things with high school or with junior high, and with high school, we're trying to get them into the small groups to be able to really chat.
Right.
So we did the box of lies. Justin sent out this link he had found that had some Zoom game ideas, and one of them was Box of Lies from the Jimmy Fallon late night show. And so what you do is every kid had to bring a strange object to the Zoom meeting and leave it to the side of their computer where nobody could see it. And then when we called on somebody, they would unmute their screen and they would describe the object. They could either lie or they could tell you the truth. And everybody in the chat box had to type if they thought it was a lie or real, and then they would reveal. And it's like, it was so funny because you don't know how it's going to go. And then all of a sudden it's like a beat of just like awkward silence. And then it's just in the chat box, it was just like, boom, like everybody wanted to share their object.
Right.
And they had thought through what they were going to bring, and they're trying to be witty and funny, and they think they have a funny thing to say.
Right.
And so they start describing. So we start unmuting people and doing that. And then everybody loves to guess if it's true or false. And so that was fun. And then this week we did every day in our group move and posting a challenge for the junior high kids to help them not just be bored, but have something focused to do. And so yesterday it was to deep clean your room. Like we said, I know that sounds crazy because it's a chore, but deep clean your room, because tonight on our Zoom meeting, we're going to let you show off your crib. We're going to let you show off your room, where you do your life. And you never know how it's going to go, but everybody wants to show off their room. Every kid wanted to walk us through virtually their room, and they had like set up hammocks and in their rooms, and it's like, what?
Like, this is my hammock
right here that I'm reading. And it's just funny. And so they really do. I mean, they just want to be seen and they want to be heard. And I think they want to put something into some sort of order and show you what they've created. And it's something that represents themselves. Drew's always said, anytime a girl, junior high, high school girl, posts something on social media, that's a picture, it is an audition for the world. And I think through our Zoom meetings, it's like every chance we give them to have the screen, it is an audition. Will I be accepted? I have something to contribute. Look what I've put together, which I do think speaks to ways that God has created us to just order our lives and to be creative and to want to share those things with other people.
Yeah. Justin, what are you guys experiencing? I know that whenever as junior high students, we're meeting with them and kind of get a lot of this whole identity. It's when they're forming their identity. And I think one of those times, not only as leaders, but even as parents, we can begin to encourage them and the gifts that God has given them, the talents that God has given them, and not to be worshiped as idols, but just things that they can use and then therefore reflect back the glory of God to who he is and how God has created them. So do you see that at all in high school students? I know it's a little bit more of the, hey, I'm going to show up 5 minutes late and act like I don't care. But really, I want you to care, right? So how does that work?
Yeah, I feel like some of the reflections I have had have come not as much directly from the Zoom sessions we've had on Wednesdays, and the side conversations that I'm having, either via texting or phone calls or talking with parents. And it's just interesting to see how different kids are processing this moment. We have a group of seniors who potentially have had what they thought were going to be some really cool memories removed, and potentially there's the only things that are going to be replaced are some form of not quite as big, maybe virtual shindigs with people they love.
Mm-hmm.
I even think about like Zane and Beth right now as we speak are probably holding their newborn baby at the Stillwater Medical Center. Zane's the only one in the room other than Beth and the new baby. They can't have their parents there. Elias can't be there. Some of their parents aren't even able to travel into the state because they just don't want to cause any exposure. And so where it used to be, man, everyone that loves us gets to come and be at the hospital. Now we're kind of isolated, and we're going to do this thing even more alone than usual. And they're getting kicked out of the hospital less than 24 hours from when Beth is having surgery. And I think that's a little bit of the newness of this.
Mm-hmm.
People are having things that expectations they had, a senior playing their last season of soccer, a senior wanting to walk the stage and have their graduation party. For us, planning a senior celebration, not only for the seniors and their parents and honoring them, but so that everyone that's younger than them can see, oh, wow, this is what it looks like to be faithful through high school. I want to be like her, and I want to be like him. I'm going to miss that. I'm sad about not having the opportunity to speak our love and appreciation to our seniors. And we're going to try and work hard to find new ways to do different things, but it's just going to be different, and our expectations are going to have to shift. And so that's what I've seen. It's revealed a lot of like expectations, if not maybe even things we've been finding purpose and hope in outside of who God is and what he's actually promised.
Yeah, whether it's the junior high kid that is finding his whole entire identity in having the coolest room, or if I could just show off what I have in my room that I think everyone else doesn't have, right? And that's become more their functional identity, all the way to the high school student who you said is right. Their senior year, it's the very end, and it's like, this is not at all how I thought this was going to end. And so I think it's in those times that our faith, our trust, our hope is put to the ultimate test. And that, we really do need to take God at his word that, he is our God, that he is where we find our hope and our identity. So, hey, we're running out of time. We just have a few more minutes. Any closing thoughts, Morgan? Anything that you would say to parents as we finish up today?
No, Drew, I think it would be cool if you would talk about what you were thinking about yesterday and what you talked to the students about last night, the junior high students, about, as we're talking about our hope and identity and finding it in Christ, just kind of the thoughts that you were having with Easter coming up.
Yeah, one of the main thoughts that I've been having, I wasn't just sitting around thinking about things, and it was just like it came into my mind where we're getting ready to come into this Easter season. Obviously, we've got, just a little over a week, but at the beginning of the week, if you've been following along the news conferences and things like this, our leadership of our country just talked about how this is going to be potentially probably the toughest 2 weeks coming up in terms of what's going on with this virus and potential deaths and different things like this, and how that could really get us down. And it just hit me the other day, and something I just shared with our students and the adults last night was that, that's 2 weeks. At the very end of that, we have Easter on Sunday. And I think probably more than anything else, this is can be a tough time, I would say, but there's hope at the end of it. And whether or not this 2 weeks is then the worst part or there's more to come after this, I just really hit me that it's in the resurrection of Jesus Christ and the hope that we have in him, that through him, death is conquered. And through the life, death, burial, and ultimately resurrection of Jesus, we have hope, even amidst death, even amidst all of the things that are going on around us. So something that I think students need to hear, something I know I needed to hear, and I hope that whatever parents might stumble upon this, I hope that gives you confidence and encouragement as well. So I think we're about out of time. We may be doing a few more of these over the next few weeks. And if you enjoy it, just let us know and we'll keep putting them out. So hope you guys are well, and we really, really look forward to seeing you face to face very soon.